23 minutes past 5. Thank you for calling back. This subject I have to address. It's merely for Christians. Remember, I am not a part of any religion. I'm not affiliated with any religion. And yes, I am of Jewish origin. It's just the way it is. Something in my eye. Now, you Christians, you're going to hate me. I'm going to be quoting from a man called Paul. He wrote quite a few of the books in the Christian Greek scriptures. Yeah. And I'm going to read some of what he says. Now, Paul, sadly, and this is where you will condemn me, I'm going to correct Paul. Especially to do with the attitude towards women. He's a bit of a hypocrite. Yeah. Because he hides. And let me just put it this way. He was contaminated by the Jews. In what sense? Remember when Yeshua was being tried to be put to death? A woman from the back shouted, "I had a flow of blood and he cured me." And what did Caiaphas say? "Shut up. We do not listen to the testimony of a woman in our law." Paul had the same attitude. Peter had the same attitude. There was occasions when Mary Magdalene, he would kiss her on the lips. Shocking, isn't it, for me to say that? What's true? And they were shocked. And he used to reveal things to her that he wouldn't reveal to anyone else. And when Yeshua was put to death and went back to his Father, Mary Magdalene suffered greatly in front of these men. They disrespected the women so much. And yet my Father, in my Father's eyes, the man and the woman are equal in his sight. This was the Jews, their mentality. You women, I'm going to address the prophets and those who speak in tongues. And those women who are around them, who get up on the platform and speak, do you not know that Paul would pronounce that as wrong? Paul, I'm going to reveal it to you. He wasn't squeaky clean. He even admitted it himself. So if you're still here and you haven't walked away, listen carefully. These are Paul's words. I'm going to draw the best out of Paul's words. But he had a problem with women. The 24 elders around the throne are male and female. The 12 apostles, there was also 12 women. Twelve. This is the way my Father has, from the beginning, made it, male and female. And listen to what Paul says in 1 Corinthians. This was a letter wrote to the Corinthian congregation. 1 Corinthians 13. You Christians who speak in tongues, listen carefully. Have you walked away? Go. These are Paul's words. Verse 1 of 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a ringing gong or a chiming cymbal. If I have the gifts of prophecy and can fathom all the mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have absolute faith so as to move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all my possessions to the poor and exult in the surrender of my body, but have not love, I gain nothing. Paul goes on to say about love. And I do not agree with all of this. Love is patient. Yes. Love is kind. Yes. It does not envy. That is true. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no account of wrongdoings. Love takes no pleasure in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. This is where correction. Paul needs correction here. It keeps no account of the wrong. Oh yes, it does. Anyone, I have brought it out so many times. The stealer, if he steals and does not return what he's stolen, where is the forgiveness? Forgiveness can only happen when we turn around and correct our course. So I had to correct there Paul's thinking. It bears all things, believes all things. It believes all things. We give people the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, we do not fully, truly believe all things. I had a man come here convincing me he loved me and he stole off me. Believe all things. He told me so many lies to get what he got out of me. So there's contradictions here, Paul. I have just corrected you. Love never fails, verse 8. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Prophecies. All the prophecies have been wrote down. What more is there to add? You tell me. So they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be restrained. They will be restrained. If I hover over this, it will give me a definition. A primary verb to stop. If we look at the number 3973, it gives us a definition of this. A primary verb to stop. Restrain, quiet, desist, come to an end. These are Paul's words. Do you believe in Paul or do you not? This is what he says. Where there are knowledge, it will be dismissed. Some of the knowledge that he had, he dismissed it because he knew it was wrong. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. He recognised that. He didn't know it all. But when the perfect comes, the partial passes away. We have come to the time period when this will be fulfilled. It is now a day. It uses a good illustration next. I'm not putting Paul to bits, I'm just correcting Paul's misunderstanding. He recognised he didn't fully understand everything. Quite humble, recognising that. And I'm pointing out to you that Paul knew that. He says, when I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. Doesn't a child not fully understand? Even although they think they know everything, they know more than their parents. Even though they're only 12. It's true. I remember thinking that myself. It's true. I didn't think that. When I became a man, I set aside childish ways. Now we see but a dim reflection, as in a mirror. These days, they didn't have mirrors like we have today. It was polished metal. And if the metal wasn't polished perfectly, it was dim. You look in a dim mirror. You don't see the wrinkles, you don't see nothing. You just say, oh yeah, man. It's true. It's a good illustration. Now we say but a dim reflection, as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. This would happen in the future. And now these three remain: faith, hope, love. That's it. All these other things, speaking in tongues, prophesying, so on. He's come to the conclusion that there's only faith, hope and love. But the greatest of these is love. At last he's come to his senses. He's no longer thinking as a child. So all those who speak in tongues, he now is going to address, because he lived in that era where they were speaking in tongues. So he says, this is verse 1 of 14, 1 Corinthians 14. Earnestly pursue love and eagerly desire spiritual gifts, especially the gift of prophecy. That was in his day, not our day. For he who speaks in a tongue does not speak to men, but to God. This is what he'd observed. Was he there in the upper room when the 120 were there at Pentecost? No, he wasn't there. He came afterwards. For he who speaks in a tongue does not speak to men. This is what he's observing, but to God. Indeed, no one understands him. Here he is amongst these Jews, Gentiles. They're speaking in tongues. He hasn't got a clue what they're saying. And this is his observation. No one understands him. He utters mysteries in the Spirit. He's taking the mick, really. He's taking the piss. But he who prophesies speaks to men for their edification. Now he's coming to the point. Because that's what building, isn't it? Edification. Encouragement and comfort. In other words, those who were speaking in tongues, it's what benefit is it? It's only benefiting you. So he's trying to correct them in a nice way. But he who prophesies speaks to men for their edification, encouragement and comfort. The one who speaks in a tongue edifies himself, but the one who prophesies edifies the church. So there's a massive difference. One is selfish, one is of love, to build up the body of Christ. Verse 5, he says, I wish that all of you could speak in tongues, but I would rather have your prophecy. Prophesy, that's what he says. So he's trying to bring this over in the best way he possibly can. I wish all of you could speak in tongues. There is a group of people in this earth today. When they spoke in tongues at Pentecost, which was a celebration of the Jews, it was 50 days after Nisan the 14th. There was a reason why they did it then. Because the nations all around came to Jerusalem. There was a need. And when they spoke in tongues then, it was for that need. To build and talk in their language. There was no need for anyone to interpret. These people could understand what these men and women were saying. I wish that all of you could speak in tongues, but I would rather have you prophesy. He who prophesies is greater than the one who speaks in tongues, unless he interprets, so that the church may be edified. If you speak in tongues and you just babble on, and all your congregation starts babbling on without any interpretation, what good is that? You tell me. Come on, tell me what good is all of that? Just to glorify you? I have one of the greater gifts. No, you haven't. You sound like mad people. If there's no one to interpret, shut up. Do it in private if you want to do it. Not in front of everybody. Why are you doing it? To draw attention to yourself? That's what it is, isn't it? I have God's approval. Do you? Do you know that the witch doctors in Africa, they speak in tongues? Who fills them? And they sound crazy, demonic. And so do you. Have you walked away yet? You better walk away. If you stop, you will benefit. And you will stop doing what you're doing. If you are not building them up with tongues, they haven't got a clue what you're saying, it is wasted. Now, brothers, if I come to you speaking in tongues, how will I benefit you? Unless I bring you some revelation or knowledge or prophecy or teaching. Do you get it? He's trying his best to get you to understand what he's saying. in that upper room, the Spirit came upon them for one purpose: to declare prophecy and what had happened in Jerusalem, so that they would understand what happened to the Son of God. Unless you can do that with your tongues, cease your tongues and shut up. Let me put it this way. Did Peter get up amongst the 120 and teach them how to speak in tongues? Look, this is how you do it. This is how you speak in tongues. Amen. What good is that? No one understands it. You don't even understand it yourself. And you teach it. What hypocrites you are. You don't teach how to speak in tongues. You idiot. Now, brothers, if I come to you speaking in tongues, how will it benefit you unless I bring you some revelation or knowledge or prophecy or teaching? Even in the case of lifeless instruments such as the flute or harp, how will anyone recognize the tune they are playing unless the notes are distinct? Have you ever heard somebody playing the guitar who doesn't know how to play the guitar, or just learning? It makes no sense. It's not nice to listen to. You get the point. This is Paul trying his best to stop these from speaking gibberish, babble, the best way he could. Again, verse 8. If the trumpet sounds a muffled call, who will prepare for battle? A Duke of Israel. Blowing his over. He's getting better. You get the point. Keep on practicing, brother. Duke of Israel. How will anyone recognize the tune they are playing unless the notes are distinct? Again, if the trumpet sounds a muffled call, who will prepare for battle? Who will prepare for battle? So, it is with you, unless you speak intelligible words with your tongue, how will anyone know what you are saying? You will just be speaking into the air. You prophets who babble on, your silly tongues, just to draw attention to yourself. That doesn't prove anything. It's not one of the gifts that you seek. In fact, they are muffled. I've already explained it.